discuss or?
Well, I'm fed up with the federal government is what I am.
What was your name again?
I'm Don Bertuzzi.
Don, that's right.
Yeah.
And how do you spell your last name?
It's B-E-R-T-U-Z-Z-I.
Okay. You want to?
And I'm just fed up with the government. I mean, I think the last real president we had was Kennedy. Yeah, I mean, I was in Washington D.C. when he got assassinated. You know, in the military, and it's just like nobody represents us anymore. I feel as though everybody there is on the tape, and they just don't represent us. Yeah, I can speak, but you know, nobody, they don't listen. And our state senators, Levin, I have no use for that man whatsoever, and Stabenow, absolutely not. I mean, they're over there. I have to press 1 to speak in English. Give me a break. And they voted for this, so no, patience overcomes anger. This I realize, you know, and physical violence is a result of an exhausted mind. But the sad part of it is, more people are starting to get an exhausted mind because they're totally fed up. And the result of an exhausted mind is physical violence. And I fear that something like that may happen. And if that does happen, then chaos exists. And that I don't want, you know.
None of us want that.
No.
Nobody in their right mind wants that.
You know, I see everybody. You can't even buy a ball bearing made in this country. Try to get a belt for a tractor. It's made in Mexico, you know? A complete deterioration of our country, you know. I worked for GM.
It's called free trade, is what they'll say.
37 years I worked for GM, you know. And, I mean, productive, really a productive company, you know, now going to hell, you know.
We made the finest pickup truck in the world in Pontiac, and we're the most productive plant, and they're shutting it down permanently. They build duplicate plants in Mexico, China, and almost every country in the world, okay, has got all of our manufacturing machining jobs that were once here, okay? And now they're shutting us down and leaving these other plants going. Now, to me, duh, nobody works, then the money's not worth anything, and who's going to be able to buy trucks and cars if they're not working? You can give all the discounts and all the garbage and all the loans in the world, but if you're not working to pay it back, what good is all the deals? What good is all the advertising? What's all the garbage that's being put upon us going to do? Destroy us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I walked in.
What was your name?
Anthony.
We're just.
I don't know what we're talking about.
I don't know if. Well, yeah. I'm just kind of taking turns.
Oh, okay.
Walter was here first, and we talked a little bit, and we're going to Don, and we're just kind of having an open discussion here. So if you guys, and if you've got issues that you want to talk privately about, we can do that too. When we get to your turn, we go to the other office.
Sure, I'm listening. I'll sit back.
I worked 34.5 years at General Motors. Okay, that's a long time. Just as the same as Don here. Okay, this gentleman is laid off from GM. He lost his job. Okay, and I'm here specifically to ask you to put legislation in place for secession for Michigan. Just as Texas is calling for it, and 35 other states are calling for secession, and their secession movements have gone on across the United States. We need to form a new union. We need to have our own currency, our own economy, and get these factories in Michigan, get our people back employed again, getting their talents put to good use, and separate from Washington, D.C. That's what needs to be done, or there's going to be starvation, okay, and genocide going on in this country. You guys at state level got the responsibility to preserve and protect the Union, Michigan, the state government of Michigan. You need to. It's your job to protect us and do that. Okay, you swore an oath to uphold the Michigan Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. that calls for when a government becomes destructive, it's your right and your duty to alter or abolish any form of government that becomes destructive. And form new vanguards, not anarchy or chaos, new vanguards, new civil government that'll protect us physically against insurrection and against invasion. There's foreign military in this country all over the place. George W. Bush signed W-1999 executive order calling in Canadian and Mexican military into this country to quell any kind of civil disturbance or upheaval. We're being betrayed. We don't want a world government, a new world order, as his old man said in 1990 at the UN. We don't want to be part of world government because that means we lose our national sovereignty, our state sovereignty. And by the way, the regionalization map I gave you on disk, I hope you looked at it. It calls for the regionalization of the United States and the destruction of all state government. That means you won't exist. You won't have no authority if they get away with this. And if we let it go, it's going to go to that because they're going to bankrupt this country. We have foreigners trying to buy up our corporations right now. Fiat telling Chrysler workers they got to give concessions. Pray tell, if they work for $15 an hour, how are they going to be able to afford to take care of their children? No, these other people need to hear this.
All right, but these other people came here to talk to
That's fine.
You know,
I've only talked for about 5 minutes. We're supposed to have a 2-hour session, right?
Right. Well,
okay.
Yeah,
well,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
wasn't a 2-hour session. It was a 2-hour session for people to come in with different issues.
That's
Everybody has not got the same issue that you do.
Oh, they don't.
So we've got to go around. I mean, I'm sure your issue is part of their problem, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But there are other issues.
Okay, and I'm going to need to ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you going to submit legislation for secession of the state from the union?
No, I'm not.
Why?
Well, because I've already told you that. I told you that.
Then you want Michigan?
I will support the sovereignty resolution that's out there now.
Which calls for what?
At this point in time.
What does it call for?
Which it basically tells the federal government to stay out of the state's business.
Okay, and what's the state supposed to be? What? Sovereign?
Sovereign. Yeah.
What does that mean? What does it mean, Kevin? I'm serious. What does it mean to you?
I don't know exactly what it means.
Sovereignty means that the people in this state, run their own business. Washington is telling the state of Michigan what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and try to withdraw funds, currency.
Well, basically, it tells the state.
Right?
The way you were asking me was my opinion. Let the state run their own business.
What does that mean?
Would not be the United States not the United. We are the United States of America, not the United America of States.
Okay. Wait a minute. Number one, the United States, individual sovereign states. What does that mean? What has Washington D.C. turned into? A dictatorship. They're telling everybody what they can and cannot do in this country.
They're working towards that, yes.
Okay, what is the New World Order, Kevin? You know what it is?
The New World Order wants to take over the whole world.
Okay, they want to take our freedoms away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the only way we're going to preserve our freedoms here in Michigan for our people and our families, because if we don't do that, there's going to be mass starvation because nobody's working. Farmers, you're a farmer, right?
Walter, I've tried to explain this to you.
You're a farmer, right?
Yeah, I am. But
are the farmers going to grow food?
Just a minute. Let me explain something to you.
What are you going to explain?
I'm going to explain to you exactly what I told you sitting in my office today.
Go ahead.
If you go in there like a bull in a china shop and you start raising hell and introducing legislation like you're talking about, you know how much help I'm going to be? Absolutely zero.
Did I say to go in like a bull in a china closet?
Well,
did I say that?
If I introduce legislation to secede from the union, they'll laugh me out of the office.
Well, they're already doing 35 states are calling for it. And you're going to say they're going to laugh you out of the chamber?
35. I've heard one state that's actually said...
One of the largest states in the country, Texas, right?
Texas, right.
I just came from a business trip to Texas. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I just came from a business trip in Texas. I don't know these other gentlemen, but it was on other business. But they are seriously talking about it. Now, I don't know if this falls into what you're
Well, of course they're serious when the governor suggests it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I was there on some other business, but I spoke with hundreds of people while I was there. And Texas is seriously considering it. I don't know on the legislative level. I don't know what's involved in the mechanics of it at this point, but I know from rank and file, as it were, to use a UAW term, from the people that I spoke with, they're really considering it. I wanted to know what the state budget deficit is, $836 million.
$795 million for this year.
The proposed cuts from the GOP.
$1.5 billion for next year.
My question, I guess, in keeping with all of what's going on here, is what's happening for, what are the cuts proposed this year from the Republican side?
From the Republican side.
And it falls into what you're talking about.
One of the things that we're proposing now at this point in time is an across-the-board cut. I mean, we've almost got to. Every department's got to have
80 million, I think.
Well, Governor Granholm has